Here's the truth. Your average is showing, whether you realize it or not. And the way that you show up in your worst day and your worst way speaks volumes. And in this episode, we're stopping it. We're stopping it. In this episode, we're diving into what it really means to level up your average as a leader. We're diving into not just the idea of doing more, but becoming more. You'll be able to have a new baseline that raises not only your standard, but raises the productivity and the achievement and the excellence and the results and the impact and all of these amazing things that will also be created around you just by you stop settling. And in this conversation, we're going to talk about how you can elevate as a leader. Welcome to another episode of the Contagious Culture podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King. And the goal of this podcast is to help you create an ecosystem of academic excellence. Through inspiring conversations, practical strategies, and actionable insights, we empower educators, leaders, and change makers to foster trust, collaboration, and create an ecosystem where they have the resources that they need to not just drive change within their schools, but to overall empower their communities. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that is so near and dear to my heart, and a topic that I've had the privilege of learning firsthand. Years ago, I had the opportunity of meeting with Michael Burnoff, who is the CEO and founder of the Human Training Institute out of Tempe, Arizona, the author of the best-selling book, Average Sucks. And he sat down with a group of individuals, including myself, and he talked about this idea of average sucks. And I've read the book multiple times. And today we're going to talk about how this shows up in schools, how when we increase our average and when we stop settling for the status quo, when we stop saying yes to anything beneath our standard, how when we stop, we can start to create on a higher level. The first portion of what I want to discuss today is the importance of knowing who you are, not knowing what you want, but knowing who you are. The challenge in life is that it's so easy to act like someone else other than to just be yourself. Many people, including teachers, parents, anyone else, present someone else's content instead of their own true voice. When you think of teachers, they come in and they teach from a curriculum that they haven't taught. When you think of singers, they sing songs that they didn't even write. When you think of so many people, lecturers that never did that specific research, but are teaching on concepts that someone else did. And an exercise that has really helped me is I want you to act out being someone else, then recognize how different it feels from being your authentic self. And so often for me, I thought that I had to be this, and I thought I had to show up in this way, and I thought I had to do things in a specific way. And it wasn't until I started to really understand who I was and what my gifts were and what my talents were and what I could contribute to the world and how I could show up better and how I was enough and worthy just as I came, that I started to show up differently. But the results were staggering because then other people around me started to notice and they started to feel comfortable with being themselves. It's like I walked around with this wall up and this mask up and always felt like I had to have this armor on and this cape on to be everyone else's superhero. And then I recognized that it was really detriment to not just myself, but then also everyone around me. Because we're all superheroes inside. And when you think about a superhero from this perspective, I would define a superhero as someone that uses their natural gifts and talents to be able to save the day, to be able to help people that are in danger, to be able to help people that are less fortunate. And when you think about the students that we serve on a daily basis, when you think about the team members that we may serve on a daily basis, it is our responsibility to understand how to cultivate, first know, but cultivate our gifts and talents so that we can be able to show up for these children that don't have parents that are showing up for them at home. We can be able to show up for our team members or our staff that didn't have a degree program that truly equipped them with what they needed to have when they came into this industry. We need to be able to equip our teams outside of the classroom with the mentorship, the coaching, and the empowerment that they may not have had, so that we can extract out of them the best parts, clean up some of the parts that are opportunities for growth, so that we can be able to show up as our best selves every single day, ultimately, so that we can help students do the same. So first step is we have to know who we are. And I want you to write down 4 to 5 sentences of who you believe that you are. And then I want you to send it to some people in your life. And then I want them to check and then be able to add and then be able to take away, so that you could really be able to understand, like, who am I and what do I bring to the table? What is the value? What are the contributions that I've already given so many people in my life? Then once we understand who we are as leaders, as people first, because leadership is about developing ourselves so that we can be able to become more and do more and be able to create more for the people that we were called to serve. So once we understand who we are, then it's understanding and admitting what we want. I want you to genuinely ask yourself, what do I want? And then say my name. Say your name. Like, what do I want, Kyle? If your name is John, what do I want, John? If your name is Susan, what do I really want, Susan? And I want you to reflect on it. I want you to take some time to reflect on it and write it down. In a past podcast episode, I explained a conversation that I was having with a student, and how oftentimes we're getting students to answer the question of, what do you want to be when you grow up? And what do you want to do? And where are you going to college? And all these various questions. And I advised them to take a completely different approach. And in that approach, I explained to them something that a mentor gave me years before. And he asked me, he's like, I came to him and I was like, hey, I want a mentor and I want you to mentor me in these various things. And he was like, what do you want? Because I don't know if I'm the mentor for you, but what do you want? And he gave me this activity set up. By the end of the night, I want you to write down 100 things that you want in life, places that you want to go, various things that you want to do, the type of relationship that you would want, the vacations that you would want to go on, the races and the challenges that you would want to, get, succeed or accomplish, all of these various things. And at first it was very materialistic, very materialistic. And once I scrapped that list, I was able to come up with 130 things that I wanted in life. And with those 100 things, with those 100 plus areas that I would want to be able to live my life according to, it's allowed me to now have a roadmap and how I could work relentlessly to pursue those things. It allows me to compare my relationship to the various things that I said that I wanted. It allows me to show up better for my children based upon what I communicated that I wanted. It allows me to plan the travel that I wanted. It allows me to reposition certain investments based upon what I wanted. It allows me to do various things. And I understand that this conversation isn't about schooling and educational strategies, but the reality of it is, if we can show up better based upon what we know about ourselves and what we want, we can show up better as our leaders, and then we can coach other people on how to do the same. Number 3 is, it's important for us to accelerate our average. Number 1 was know who you are. Number 2 is admit what you want. And now it's time for us to accelerate our average. What this looks like is we need to identify our non-negotiables. We need to identify our non-negotiables and build upon them. Now, example could be, I became a homeowner, then I got married. Like, what is your next step? For me, it's important to not just have these various things that we want. Like, all right, I got the white picket fence, and then I got married, had the kids, and then I died. That's the life that sometimes has been written for us, but what is the life that you actually want in your life? And when I think about my identity list, and I wrote these various things down, I'm an athlete. I'm an honest man, a man of values. I'm a believer, committed to God. I'm a reader. I'm a writer. I'm a great dad. I'm a husband. I'm a traveler. I'm a speaker. I'm an investor. I'm a philanthropist. I'm an educator. I'm a connector. How can we not just focus on being nouns, but being verbs? And I've talked about this concept years ago to a group of students. And oftentimes we believe we have this ideology that if I can sing, I need to be a singer. If I can teach, I need to be a teacher. And we get stuck in it rather than just recognizing that we can be all of these things and practice and live out these identities on a daily basis. Today, you may be the investor that is looking at your stock portfolio or real estate investments, but just because you're in a leadership position doesn't mean you can't still be a teacher. Just because you're in an educator position doesn't mean you still can't lead in a various aspect. So what are all of the identities that you claim or that you have realized in your life, whether you're a parent or you may have skills in writing or you are a traveler? And I want you to start living these things on a daily basis. How can we show up better on a daily basis for ourselves on a daily basis? Okay. So number one is know who you are. Number two is admit what you want. Number three is it's important for us to accelerate our average. And then that leads us to number four is it's important for us to be congruent. What you say and what you do must match. And oftentimes for me, where I've became overwhelmed and stressed and aggravated and feeling anxiety and feeling this pressure to show up is because what I was saying and what I was doing was completely opposite. Confidence is built by staying in the congruent, by honoring your word to yourself first. If you're saying that you're going to save a certain amount of money, or you're going to do certain things for your leader or for your team, or you're going to be a specific parent, or you're going to do various things, the challenge that comes in is why we don't feel confident and why we don't show up for ourselves in the ways that we want to be able to show up for ourselves is because it's misalignment. So what are the boundaries? What are the things that we can put in place as leaders so that we can be that person on a daily basis? That leads us to number five in solving problems. Number one, again, is knowing who you are. Number two is admitting what you want. Number three is accelerating your average. Number four is being congruent. Number five is solving your problems, not the world's problems, your problems first. If you're not fixing an issue, it's because you don't have enough care or simply you don't value it enough. Taking it seriously would mean resolving it and raising your standard. If you are struggling financially still for months, that means you don't really value it enough to be wealthy. One of the things that I value is freedom, more than a lot of things, freedom and peace of mind. I recognize that freedom will come by having a certain financial status in place, financial, or being in a certain place financially that allows me to choose what I want to do on a daily basis. As a business owner and a leader of a company and people, I recognize that until you produce more than you consume, people won't understand or know who you are. I also recognize production. Intentional production is important with generating leads and growing a business. If I want freedom, it requires me to grow the business. If I want to grow the business, it requires me to produce. If I want to produce, that requires me to show up in the ways that I'm showing up with you today. That's why I'm doing an episode every single day so that I can show up and I'm committed to solving certain problems so that I can be able to commit to living a life of freedom and peace. So a question that I want you to reflect on is, what are you doing instead of the things that you need to do? Are you going out and eating more than you're investing? Are you allowing movies and Love Island and certain shows to take away from your studying time? Are you having conversations that are not really moving you forward rather than having conversations that are actually pushing you forward to your goal? Who are the people that are distracting you? Are you hanging out instead of hanging up old ways to move yourself forward? And then it's important that you put together an elimination plan. What are high impact activities that you can commit to moving forward as a leader? Whether that's working out for an hour before school, whether that is reading for an hour so that you could show up, whether that is committing to those identities and teaching a specific lesson so that you can stay sharp, whether that is creating a Bible study group or a book study group within your school, whether that is building a training around various aspects of your school, or watching a podcast of the Contagious Culture podcast every day before you start school, whether that is creating a list of book resources or getting a run in during lunch, whether that is eating more healthy. What are the things that you can eliminate and replace so that you can be a better leader and show up and improve and increase your average on a daily basis? Number one is know who you are. Number two is admit what you want. Number three is accelerate your average. Number four is be congruent. Number five is solve your problems. And number six is worst case scenario if you stay stuck. What is the worst case scenario? One of the challenges that I wrote down that I'm going to be vulnerable with is my kids will not be able to live a life of freedom because they never saw their parents committing to creating that life of freedom. So they would feel that they would have to always work a 9 to 5, or that they would have to go to school and they would have to do it in the same exact way that I did it. What is the worst case scenario if you stay in the position that you're in? Will your parents be able to have freedom? Will students and teachers be able to be inspired? What is the worst case scenario if you stay stuck? And I want you to write it down. I want you to write it down. One of the trigger words based upon the book Average Sucks by Michael Burnoff, what inspired this conversation today, is what I wrote down is that wasted blessing in life. A wasted blessing in life. And every time I hear that, it triggers me to get back on. I don't want to feel like I wasted God's blessing and my life. I don't want to feel like I wasted years of my parents sacrificing for me. I don't want to waste the years of investing to be the person that I am and the person that I'm becoming. So I want you, number 6, write down what is the worst case scenario and what are some trigger words that you can write down so that you can stay motivated and anchored to staying disciplined as not just the leader in the school building, but also the person that shows up consistently on a daily basis. What is the worst case scenario if your teachers continue to do what they're doing? What is the worst case scenario if you don't get the training that you deserve? What is the worst case scenario? Number 7 is new commitments. I want you to commit to something new for 21 days. And I want you to learn your current average, and then I want you to commit to raising it on a weekly basis. If you work out 3 times a week, commit to doing 4. If you eat healthy 4 days a week, commit to doing it 5. If you do 1 training a week with your staff, commit to doing 2. I want you to increase your weekly average every single week until you are at the place that you feel proud of. Number 1, as leaders, we need to know who we are. Once we understand who we are, we need to now admit what we want. It's critical that we ask ourselves those tough questions, because now it's important that we work relentlessly to pursue it. And then it leads us to accelerating our average, creating and identifying the non-negotiables in our lives and building on them. Once we're building on them, congruency is necessary. Confidence is built by staying congruent, by honoring the words that you said to yourself. That allows us to have the courage and the confidence to be able to solve problems. If you're not fixing an issue, the truth is it's because you don't value it enough. You don't value it enough if you're not working towards it. Write down the things that you need to eliminate. Write down the things that are distracting you. Write down what are you doing instead of the things that need to be done, and get them done. Then once you have that, what is the worst case scenario if you stay stuck in the same place that you're staying? Then create new commitments. Have some self-assessment questions. What was your original why? What will your life look like when you've achieved your goal? And if an outsider looked at your life, what would they say that you valued most? Raising our average as leaders begins when we stop settling for the work and the life that we currently have. Delete what was already in front of you so that you can begin to build what is destined for you. Delete what was to build what is, to achieve the various things that you want, to achieve the excellence in the school, to achieve the impact that you were designed to be able to create. Recency plus frequency plus duration plus intensity equals conversion. If it stays top of mind and you do it over a period of time, for a long period of time, and you're intense about it, you will be able to create the life that you not are destined to live, but the life that you deserve. In order for us to become great leaders, we have to understand this one thing. The culture in your school is based upon the energy that you bring. So if we want to bring better energy into our schools, we have to be better people. In order for us to be better people, we have to commit to the various things that we talked about in this podcast episode. If you need help with creating these various things, if you need help with some accountability, if you need help with being a better leader on a daily basis, click the link below, schedule some time, talk to our team, and let us guide you on stop settling and elevating the standard in which you are called to serve. My name is Kyle King, and I'm the host of the Contagious Culture podcast. And I just want to thank you for joining in tonight. Ask yourself this week, what kind of culture am I spreading? Culture is everywhere and is in anything. Make yours worth spreading. We'll see you next time.